Good morning. Welcome to worship from the Old Ship Meeting House. This morning, a Christmas pageant and tableau such as we have never quite done before. It will be beautiful. It will be and is what it is. Thank you all for being here and many of you for participating. We begin as we do each week with a chime and then our prelude, which will be offered as most weeks by Christopher Still, 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 a traditional German carol. We've gathered to celebrate Christmas, returning sun at the darkest time of year, returning life when all seems dark and drear. Light in the eyes of children, whether near or far, light in the flames of candles, light in distant stars. We gather to celebrate Christmas by whatever name, in whatever way, to celebrate love reborn, to celebrate kindness to the most forlorn. We have gathered far and near, and it is good. Our introit to be sung by Chris Marr, Sing We Now of Christmas.
Sing we now of Christmas, Noel, sing we here. Hear our grateful praises to the babe so dear. Sing we Noel, the child is born Noel. Sing we now of Christmas, sing we now Noel.
Thank you, Chris. This morning, one of our deacons, Fan Leonard, will say words, offer some words for our chalice lighting. Fan, with thanks. So Fan, you are still muted.
All
There
right.
we go. You're all set.
Yeah. Thank you. We, all of us, accompany Ken as he puts out, as he lights the chalice of our faith. It lifts us up beyond disappointment and dailiness. It isn't really so different from the expectations of the Magi as they travel.
You muted yourself by mistake, I think. There you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Now we
I'm
can.
sorry to delay. All of us go with Ken as he lights the chalice of our faith that lifts us above dailiness and disappointment. It isn't so different from the Magi as they traveled a long trek to discover what their star was waiting to tell them. T.S. Eliot he imagined that journey and expressed it in these words: "A cold coming we had of it, just the worst time of year for a journey, and such a long journey. The ways deep and the weather sharp, the very dead of winter. For us, the way to the light is easier, just a few steps. But we will each have been through sometimes a long trek of endless demands, disappointments. But don't forget, we Unitarians, we have the Jewish tradition in our ancestry. Today's inspiration is not going to end with today. It shines for the whole week.
Thank you, Fan.
Amen.
With those good and beautiful thoughts, I light the flaming chalice of our faith. Now we sing. We'll be able to see one another singing, even though we can't hear one another. It's in the hymn book if you need it or have it, 235, Deck the Hall with Boughs of Holly. I think I could hear you singing. Responsive reading that we share each year at this time has a simple response, which is "For Christmas is Coming." Chloe will lead that response, and you can say that at home or wherever you are this morning. We decorate homes and meeting house with fir and holly and mistletoe
For Christmas is coming.
We sing carols of joy and love, heralding a holy birth.
For Christmas is coming.
We wait with excited expectation.
For Christmas is coming.
We hope for snow, just enough to please, but not too much to burden.
For Christmas is coming.
We prepare gifts for those we love.
For Christmas is coming.
We pray for the greatest of gifts, peace on earth, goodwill to all.
For Christmas is coming.
Thank you, Chloe. Thank you all. Once again, welcome to worship in this Christmas season from the Old Ship Meeting House. A number of announcements, just about all of which have been in our email newsletter updates and so on, and will be again. Anything that's after today, you'll hear about again in our updates. Today, there is a board meeting at noon. The board will be voting on the purchase and sale agreement for the parish house. Members of the congregation are invited to attend and observe that proceeding. The Zoom link to attend the board meeting is a separate link that was indicated in the email yesterday and in the board email on Friday. This evening, our annual solstice poetry event, hosted as always by our poet laureate, Elizabeth Torrey. That's at 7 o'clock. The link, which is on our website, and we've been sharing it in email, will open at 6:45. There will be some music beginning at that time. Our Christmas Eve service, 5 o'clock as always on Christmas Eve. The Zoom will open at 4:30. There will be special brass music as we get closer to 5. And it is a unique Christmas Eve link. So don't use the same worship link that we use each Sunday. Find that link on our website, and we have been sending that out and will again. And finally, there will be a coffee hour following the Christmas Eve service hosted by Karen Churchill quite graciously, and we'll include that link in our weekly update this week. Actually, finally, next Sunday will be our annual New Year's service as we approach the new year of shared readings. So if it will be the same worship link, but if you'd have a poem or something else to share, that will be the Sunday to share. And I will of course lead and host that service. Here end the announcements. And here begins our time of sharing joy or sorrow or a concern, a deeply felt concern. And I will light candles for each. A few of you have emailed me in advance, and I will read what you said for these first few candles. From Diane Jordan, she writes, a candle for her dear friend Bob Moses, who passed away this week after a 10-month journey with cancer. May his light, she writes, hold fast for his wife and daughter, and for those of us who loved him so. May it be so. From Julie Williams, she asked for a candle of concern for her sister Deb, who lives in a nursing home in Texas. There are, she's learned this week, 4 COVID cases currently at the nursing home, none as of yet on her floor, but there's deep concern, of course, from Julie. So we send prayers for Deb's well-being and health, and we hold Julie in our hearts as well. And this from Mary Thomas. She asked for a candle of love and remembrance on the 2nd anniversary of Hal Thomas's death, which is upcoming this week. We all hold Mary in our hearts and prayers as we hold Hal in grateful memory. I will light those 3 candles, and the remaining candles for any that you've entered in, any joys or sorrows you've entered in chat, and any that we hold close to our hearts, though they have remained unexpressed in words among us today. We join our hearts and minds in the spirit of meditation, prayer, and gathered silence. Taking time to pause in the rush of this season, so different, yet in many ways much the same as seasons past. May we take time to pause, to breathe in the midst of everything in our lives, in the life of our nation and the world. Breathe. Breathe this moment into presence for ourselves, for one another. Here, now, together, appreciating our being together, noticing one another on these screens and in our lives, caring for each other, even as we open our hearts in prayer to all in need this day, this season, and the needs are great. The injustices are great. The suffering is real and too much. And so may we pause in the midst of whatever else. Yes, in the midst of sorrows, yet also in the midst of the joy of this season, still joy, including the joy of this moment, as we hold one another and all beings in prayer. May all beings be held in the arms of the unnameable Spirit of all life. As we pause, each week at about this time, we invite an offering. Each week, I remind us, that we have two ways to give online. Go to our oldship.org website, oldshipchurch.org, and we can, when we donate, we can give to the ongoing ministries of our congregation by donating to plate offering, or we can give to our monthly outreach offering, which this month is for the Guest at Your Table program of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, meeting so many needs around the planet and closer to home, or we can do both. And so knowing that the world is much larger than these four walls, larger than our dozens of screens, may we be as generous as able this day as our time of offering approaches and as we hear the music for our offertory, Heather Nolasco singing, "What Child Is This?" Our offering will be given and received.
What child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? This such mean estate, where ox and ass are feeding, the end of fear for all who hear the silent word is speaking. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him laud, the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh. Come, peasant king, to own him, the King of kings. Salvation brings, let loving hearts enthrone him. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him laud, the babe, the Son of Mary.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you all for your generosity. A reading this morning will be shared by Roy Harris. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you, Ken. That was beautiful, Heather. Our reading this morning is Each of Us by Ann Fields. As we hear the familiar Christmas story, let us open our hearts to the images which speak to our lives. Each of us could travel a long and weary journey, only to find that when night falls, there is no room at the inn. Each of us could be a shepherd, patiently caring for those who need us, who depend on us. Each of us could be a king or a queen, in search of the holy, ready to offer our gifts. Each of us might sometime hear angel voices, singing of a glory we have yet to know. And surely for each of us, there is a desert to cross, a star to follow, and a new being within to bring to life. Here ends the reading.
Thank you, Roy. Beautiful. Now we get to sing again. Go Tell It on the Mountain. It's number 239 in your hymn books. And if you don't have a hymn book or don't know the words, let me turn it to my own page. The refrain is pretty simple. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Go tell it on the mountain. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. While shepherds gently watching o'er silent flocks by night, behold throughout the heavens there shone a holy light. Oh, tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Oh, tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Shepherds feared and trembled when lo, above the earth, when earth the angel chorus that held the baby's birth. Oh, tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Oh, tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Down in the manger, a humble babe time once again to share the ancient Christmas story of the birth of Jesus. We share it here in a meeting house that has but 3 people sitting here right now. Usually there's 100, but it's filled with the spirits of all who have been here before and all of you on these screens. And it will, as the pageant does every year, have its imperfections, but there is no such thing as an imperfection. This year it might be more technological than otherwise, but we're going to do the best we can. So as we share this ancient story again, you might this day be feeling like an angel or a star with a song to sing, or like a shepherd with a flock of family and friends to care for, perhaps even like a king or a queen, a wise one. We can see on the screens that some of you have been feeling that way for some time already this morning, and you're all set. And if any of that is true, and if you have any sort of costume handy, you too will have your chance today, very soon, to be a star, an angel, a shepherd, or a wise one when the time comes. If you have an animal nearby, that can be offered to our stable. Well, every Christmas is a birthday, not just for one particular child born long, long ago, and not even just for all those who over the centuries happen to have a birthday that falls on December 25th. No, every Christmas is also the day of birth for love reborn, the child within us, rebirth of hope and joy and love and peace in our hearts and in our lives. Today, though, we are going to tell the story, a very old story of one child, a child known as Jesus, born, the story says, in Bethlehem, a little town far away from here, about 2,000 years ago. That 2,000 years is a long time. But the beauty of the story remains, and the truths that Jesus grew to teach remain as true as ever, as important as ever. The story begins as Mary and Joseph, who lived in the town of Nazareth, traveled a long way to the town of Bethlehem to be counted in the census. They were likely tired from their long journey. Joseph walking, and Mary, who was about to have a baby, traveling on a donkey. We'll have to imagine the donkey. In fact, this morning we're imagining Joseph too by her side. They may have been a little scared, worried that they may not be accepted or welcome in this strange time. I think we're going to see Mary in a moment. They no doubt felt, oh, there she is. Oh my goodness, she's very concerned. They no doubt felt all the more despondent when they were told there was no room at the inn. Mary, what do you think of that? Oh my goodness. Not much of a welcome at all for tired and hungry strangers in a strange town. So they ended up in a stable nearby with animals for warmth and company. The sheep and ox and lambs welcomed them. Ah, there's one of our lambs. So it was there in the stable that Mary gave birth to a child that she and Joseph named Jesus. There we are. So with that, we will sing "O Little Town of Bethlehem." And what would Old Chip's Christmas pageant be without the famous cow and a couple of sheep as well? And you need to hear the bell. Whoa. Come on, it was probably a little chaotic in the stable 2,000 years ago, too. Well, stories of miraculous births have long been told of the greatest prophets and teachers of humanity, whether Jesus or the Buddha, many others. And sometimes a special star is said to have shone on the night of a great wisdom teacher's birth. What might the star over Bethlehem have been? Some say it might have been an exploding star, a supernova, bright, bright supernova. Others say it might have been a comet, flashing through the sky but hanging for days. Still others suggest it might have been a conjunction of planets. We have our own conjunction these days of Jupiter and Saturn. Perhaps right about that time, some say it was Jupiter, the king of the planets, the star Regulus, which means prince, and Venus, goddess of love. How about that, Heather? All coming together to shine as one bright star, or two, in conjunction. In any case, we can imagine that the stars shone brightly on the night of this birth, and that one star, whatever it might have been, supernova, conjunction, comet, shone far more brightly than the others. And we can imagine, too, that angels were also there, another symbol and recognition of the birth of a great spiritual teacher or prophet. Angels soaring through the sky, speaking words of calm and protection. Angels protecting Jesus and his parents and proclaiming to all good news. Yes, you can see, proclaiming good news of his birth, proclaiming the birth of a great souled leader to help us on our way. Well, we will sing again as we appreciate stars and angels on our screens. It came upon the midnight clear. The story goes on to say that there were shepherds keeping watch over their flocks in the fields of Bethlehem, not far from the town itself, and that they heard the angels' voices telling them of this baby's birth. At first, the story tells us they were afraid when they heard these voices in the sky. After all, would you be afraid if you heard voices coming from the sky? I think perhaps so. But one beautiful voice, an angelic voice, proclaimed, "Fear not, for I bring you good tidings of great joy, that a Savior has been born this night in Bethlehem." And so the shepherds came. They came from their fields to see this birth. From all the fields, came to the stable to see for themselves. Shepherds coming. Shepherds coming to the stable. Shepherds as we sing the first Noel. Meanwhile, three, I'm not sure how many we have today, we will see. 3 wise ones saw that bright star from far away. And whatever it was, the star was brighter than ever they had seen. Perhaps Mary and Joseph looked outside the stable and also saw that bright star. Would they have guessed or thought that this star was for their child? For every parent thinks that their child is the most special and precious of all. As for the wise ones, some think they may have been kings, perhaps queens. Others have said they were learned astrologers, the Magi, who knew all there was to know about the appearance and meaning of the stars and constellations in the sky, and would have known in seeing this star that it meant something quite special indeed. Whoever they were, we are told that they undertook the long and dangerous journey from the east to discover what that amazing star meant, what it portended. Oh, we've got many wise ones today. Well, as we continue to appreciate the wise ones journeying, that long journey, we can sing, "We Three Kings." We have so many wise ones. I'm not surprised. The gifts the wise ones had brought, we're told, frankincense, myrrh, and gold, may not have been the most practical for a baby, though they were valuable, especially the gold, and Mary and Joseph, poor as they were, could certainly have used the gold. We're told they have particular meanings for the birth of a great soul. But they were most definitely precious gifts in any case for what the wise ones believed was a precious and special child, born in the midst of the most humble of circumstances, a stable. For it is said that they knew that this baby would be a great teacher for all people, who would teach us to love even those who hurt us, to share all that we have, to care for the poorest of the poor, and to know that each person is holy and sacred. And when we do any one of those things, when we know any of this, for those moments, for that time, we have entered what he called the kingdom of heaven, the reign of God. He taught us that everyone ought to be welcomed, all the more if they are hungry, without a home, or frightened for their lives. So just as the wise ones gave gifts to Jesus, and just as Jesus taught us to give of ourselves, so do we give gifts this season to those we love and to others. And gifts not only of things which can be themselves precious and meaningful, but also gifts of love, gifts of hope, of joy, the gift of goodwill and peace. Holding in our minds and hearts these teachings of a great souled one, may we sing together Silent Night. This telling of the Christmas story comes to its conclusion. Many of us can recall the tableau up front here at the conclusion of the story with the shepherds and the wise ones and the stars and the angels. Bring that to imagination, but also once again, scan your screens and see the wise ones, the angels among us, the shepherds among us, the angels and stars among us. So this telling of the Christmas story is over. This story of a birth long ago to a poor family in a stable far from their home, far from those who knew and loved them. A story of angels and shepherds and stars and wise ones from afar. But may the story stay the year long in our hearts, reminding us of the sacred potential born in each child, always ready to be reborn in our own lives and hearts. The love within each one of us, reminding us to do our part. It may seem small, but it never is. Our part to help create peace on earth, goodwill to all, welcoming hospitality for all. This day, this season, and always, may it be so. Flames extinguished, but never the love. We carry that as well as the light within us wherever we go. May we share the love, share the light, this season and always. We sing one more time, Angels We Have Heard on High. It's number 231 in your hymn book, Angels We Have Heard on High. But there's some of that that's easy to sing, whether or not you have the words in front of you. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, May we take whatever measure of love and peace and goodwill has been reawakened in our hearts this morning, this day, this season. Take it and bring it to those we love. Take it to bring it to everyone whom we meet, pass, encounter in our lives. May it be so. Amen. Blessed be.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the birds repeat of peace on earth to all goodwill.
Thank you, Christopher. Christmas is coming, Vince Giraldi. And special thanks this morning to Colin McGinnis, who's been handling our tech as he does each week and enabled the spotlights to see everyone. Thanks to everyone who participated this morning to bring the ancient Christmas story to life once again, to bring it to our hearts once again.